Bob is one of the few bankers that I know of that is not only innovative, but is involved with the community, and an excellent banker per se. He's involved, I know when they bought a bank in Lowell, he immediately got involved with the Lowell plan. He's involved with the Dimmock Center. He's a graduate of Stonehill University. He and I were talking about going out to the Midwest. He spent a year in Nebraska and then came back here. And just, you know, I think you'll enjoy the program today. It's very cutting edge, and we're really looking forward to it. So, Bob Rivers.
Well, thank you, Bob, for the kind introduction and really for your friendship and partnership over the years. You've been so great to us, myself personally and our team, and I can't thank you enough for it. I want to thank also Mike for your comments and your friendship. We miss you. Darren, we miss you too, but we know you're doing great out there and are pleased to still have you as partners. So again, I'm probably going to be sharing with you among the least interesting things that you're going to hear today in the program, so I'm going to try to keep it short. As you may know, Eastern is, at $10 billion in assets, America's oldest and largest mutual bank with over 100 locations across southern New Hampshire and eastern Massachusetts. When we think about how we want to be described at Eastern, and I'll use this as a means of providing context for the presentation that you're about to see, we think of two words. The first is progressive. And being progressive comes from the fact that we're a mutual, and we've been around for 200 years. And we were the second mutual established in this country to provide access to fairly priced financial products and credit pretty much to all people at a time where there was no national banking system and no national currency. That mission is alive and well, and Eastern has expanded over the years from the needs of really consumers to certainly businesses large and small. I will tell you, as we went through the financial crisis back several years ago, we started to reflect much more deeply on that mission. And as I remember a few of us, Joe Bader and I, and Joe leads our business banking team at Eastern, sitting around a table in early '09, and you might remember that well, in the shock and awe of the financial crisis, and realizing, because of who we are and because of what we can do, that we had an opportunity and indeed a responsibility to step up our game. You see, we'd always been a very, very active small business lender, but we doubled down and then doubled down some more. And as a result, we've been the largest SBA lender in Massachusetts for the last 7 consecutive years, in all of New England for the last 6 years, and for the past 2 years, been among the top 10 SBA lenders in all of the United States. Thank you. But we didn't stop there. As you know, to take advantage of SBA programs, you have to be pretty bankable. So we started to invest in other programs. Some we built our own, some we partnered with others in terms of Axione, a microfinance lender. But then again, we knew we had to go further. The other word that we like to think of ourselves as Eastern is the word innovative, and that is not a word that you would think of when you think of banks, right? And certainly community banks. How many do you know that we do consider particularly innovative? But it's very important that we at Eastern, all banks, all of us, need to become increasingly innovative, as you will. I know in our business, technology has always changed the manner in which it has been done over many decades, but it has never been more dramatic or rapid as it's been in recent years. And we started to recognize that, you know, not too long after we started to emphasize our focus on small business, realizing that as innovative as we had been within our own context, that we needed to double down and get much more innovative yet again. So myself and a couple of my other colleagues started walking around Kendall Square with the idea that in addition to worrying about all of those disruptive innovators out there looking to put us out of business, that we needed to engage disruptive innovators within our own business to put ourselves out of business. At the time we had that idea, we really didn't know what that meant or whether it was even possible. But lucky for us, along the way, we met the leadership team at a firm called Perk Street Financial. If you follow financial services at all, you will know that Perk Street Financial was a very successful online banking startup here in Boston. In fact, they had amassed more customers than a name you might know called Simple that sold out to a much larger bank a few years ago. We were lucky to meet up with the leadership team of Perk Street and have partnered with them to develop our own innovation lab, Eastern Lab. And that allowed us to not only increase our focus on innovation, take that to a whole new level, but also yet again increase our offerings to small businesses and further our commitment there in support of both our business and our mission. So what you're going to see today, with no degree of hyperbole, I assure you, is the fastest, the easiest, and the most transparent way to borrow if you're a small business than you have ever seen that is ever offered anywhere. And that is courtesy of the Labs team. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to the former CEO of Perk Street Financial, and now our Chief Digital Officer and the founder of Eastern Labs, Dan O'Malley.
Hey everybody, I'm Dan, and I am really excited to be here to tell you more about Labs and what we do, and probably more fun than that, to actually show you what we've been working on, which, as Bob mentioned, is it's pretty exciting. But let me first tell you what Labs is all about, and weave in a little of our story along the way. So at Labs, we take all of the data and the digital assets that are resident at Eastern, that banks have, and we build new technologies from them. When you think about it as the financial partner for a small business or a consumer, we really know an incredible amount about your business already. We can see where you're spending your money. We can see if you have opportunities or trouble based on the data that we have at the bank. And we can reach out to you either by email or online banking, where you're communicating with the bank a lot already, to have a conversation about your financial needs. By and large, that just does not happen in banking today, and I think that's the opportunity in front of us. And so just a little bit about my background then. Bob mentioned that I was the CEO of Perk Street. You know, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a business builder. Myself and Lawrence, who you'll hear from, we know what it's like to run a small business because we did it. And you might ask, why are we then here sitting inside of a bank as opposed to off being fintech entrepreneurs? And I think the answer is for two reasons. One is that we believe that financial services is going through a moment of discontinuous change, the likes of which it hasn't seen in probably 100 years. Technology is making everything easier, faster for us to do. Who doesn't live on their phone? And why can't we have that same real-time, fast experience in banking that we can have in every other part of our lives? So I think there's a huge opportunity to do that. And I believe in the vision that Bob and Eastern has for how we can help define the financial future for our communities. And not just with technology, but in so many ways that we do at Eastern. So that brought us into Eastern. And that is what has allowed us to rethink how small businesses borrow money. We started a project back in October of 2014, so not all that long ago, to see if we could change how we lend. We heard from customers that Eastern has excellent service, very, very helpful people, and competitive prices, but we also heard that it takes a long time to borrow money. Not necessarily longer than any other bank, but it's just not quick. And we heard that we just weren't respecting our customers' time as much as we were respecting their money. And so we set out to try to change that. And the next month after we started working on the project, we ran a test to see, gosh, if we promised to do our work really quickly to make a loan, would anybody respond to that? Would our customers care? And we launched a test in November of 2014, very, very quickly, to see what would happen. And the response was through the roof. We ran another test because it was so high, we actually didn't believe it. And so we ran another test in December of 2014 and got a higher response rate. And so with that in hand, we set out to rebuild the entire process of borrowing up to $100,000 with Eastern Bank. And we did a pilot in May of last year to make sure we were still on the right track, and that again yielded a higher response rate than anything we'd ever done at the bank. And just at the end of last year, we now have rolled out a new process to borrow up to $100,000 for the existing customers of Eastern Bank. Lawrence is going to walk you through that, but just to give you a couple highlights in advance for what to watch for, because there's not that much to watch for because of how quick it is. It's less than 5 minutes. You can borrow up to $100,000 if you're an existing customer of Eastern in less than 5 minutes. We ask you 5 questions. That's it. What we've done is do all of the work that we have to do as a bank to get comfortable with making a loan. We did all that in advance so that our customers don't have to wait for us to do our work and they can get back to doing their work. It's frankly incredible. So with that, I'm going to actually stop talking for a while. I'll let Lawrence come up. Lawrence is the COO for Labs, and he and I built Brook Street together. And we're actually going to walk through it and let you guys touch and feel what we built. It's pretty new. As I mentioned, we started rolling out at the end of last year, and we haven't actually talked publicly much about what we're doing. So you guys are getting a very early look at some pretty exciting tech. So Lawrence is going to lead us through a demo, and then I'll come back at the end, make a couple comments, and do questions.
Thanks, Dan. Afternoon, everybody. What I'm going to show you here locally on my laptop over the Wi-Fi here, so please no Snapchatting while I'm doing the demo, is basically what we're in market with, as Dan said, today for existing Eastern Bank customers. We're going live with a product for new customers, rolling out a branch pilot at the end of this month. So what I have on the screen behind me is an example of a web page that you will be taken to in response to clicking on a marketing solicitation email that we would send you as an existing customer of Eastern. We drop you in with a personalized experience. We kind of know who you are, and that is really the theme throughout this application. Is what we set ourselves as a goal is, could we remove all of those questions from the application that we've all filled in 1,000 times? What's your company name? What's your tax ID? What's your bank account number? We're your bank. We know your bank account number. We don't need you to tell us. And what would happen if you removed all of that? What would happen if you removed all the paperwork? And what would happen if you actually made that accessible to customers in a number of different ways? So here's an example of a landing page where you'll be taken to, just to scroll down quickly, just kind of show you how we describe the product. So first of all, the product that we're live with today for existing customers, you can apply online. You can actually click and have that 5-minute experience that Dan talked about and actually close your loan, do all your paperwork online. You can do it on your phone, do it on a computer. You can actually apply it over the phone. We have a dedicated team in our call center who have been trained up on small businesses. And lastly, you can do it over the phone with the banker, or you can go into a branch. We also have an iPad product that allows our bankers to actually meet you. Heaven forbid they come to you at your business location. We can actually do the application on site at Starbucks, at Dunkin' Donuts, wherever it's convenient for you, really trying to change this dynamic of making it work for you rather than having a process that works for us. So let me just click in and give you a sense of what our application form looks like. Dan mentioned 5 questions. It's actually 4 questions if you only have one deposit account. So the first thing we do at the top here is we just confirm that we have the correct business name and address and phone number for the company. First question we ask you here is, what's your revenue? We'll talk a little bit in a minute about how we validate that. Now the all-important question, how much do you want to borrow? I think I'd like to borrow $50,000, and again, this product is $10,000 to $100,000. Next question is, which account would you like to put it into? We just show you this particular example has 2 accounts. I'm going to put it in the account ending 4899. The last section is, because we require the personal credit background of the owners of the business here, we're just going to confirm your information and your address information and your email, make sure we have those correct. And then now we're going to ask you for your social. And if you think about it, this is really the first time we're actually asking you a question on the form to which we already have the answer. And the reason we're doing that is we clearly want to make sure that we're actually talking to Edward, we're not talking to somebody else. Next question we ask is, do you own the whole company? Do you own the whole business? The answer is typically yes for small businesses in our portfolio, so we make it very, very easy to say yes. If you say no, we're going to begin to ask you a series of questions that identifies what do you own of the company and who the other owners are and who would need to be joined into the application. I'm just going to keep it simple and say yes, check a box. You can tell where the lawyers got a hold of this note and had some disclosure language here. And then lastly, I'm going to go ahead and apply. What's going to happen while that spinny's going is we're going to reach out to the credit bureau, we're going to reach out to Dun & Bradstreet, we're going to pull and make sure there are no public filings on the company that would affect our ability to offer credit. That returns in less than 30 seconds, typically returns about as fast as it returned right now, and that's how long it takes us to decision a loan for an existing customer of Eastern. It's about 10 seconds, 15 seconds on a busy day. So what you're going to get back there is a very, very instant, here's the offer of credit. We handle counter-offers if when we look at your profile, for any reason we're willing to offer money but maybe less than you've asked for, we handle that. That happens in the same period of time. And if for any reason you don't meet our credit policy, we'll tell you that right up front. Our philosophy is we can't avoid saying no, but let's say no quickly and respectfully. So what I'm going to do now is actually kind of move through the process. At this point, what you could do is go to your email. We would have sent you an email with this information that you could close the loan from your email. You could have questions and call into our call center. You could have questions and call up your branch, walk into your branch. You have a number of options. We keep these offers open for 30 days. So the next step is to really, let's just say we want to move ahead. Let's go ahead and sign the documents, which again, you can do online. So, excuse me. While that wheel's spinning, what we're actually doing is taking all of our standard loan documents, dropping in all of the information specific to you and the application and the offer we just made, and creating those in real time. We have a disclosure page here. We have another level of security where you have to enter the last four of your social again before you sign your documents again. We just want to make sure that this is incredibly secure. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into these documents. Some of you may be familiar with DocuSign. They're a pretty big player in the real estate space. So we're going to prompt you for your last four of your social and then take you into the e-signing experience for DocuSign. So what we've got here, got a couple of boxes to check just to agree to electronic disclosures. And I'm not quite sure what you can see at the back of the room, but effectively what we've got here is, think of this as a PDF of your loan documents. We've created them in real time. There are no typos. There's no cut and paste. No one had to type this. So we have a page describing the details of the loan. We have a couple of pages of kind of the legal boilerplate language for this particular kind of loan at Eastern. We then have a place for you to sign it. I'm signing on a computer, so I can't actually use my finger. If you were doing it on a phone or an iPad, a box would actually pop open and you could actually use your finger to sign. It works great on even small devices. I'm going to go ahead and pick an electronic signature. Scroll down. We have a personal guarantee on this particular product at Eastern. And then lastly, we've automated the retrieval of tax transcripts to avoid you having to go through the effort of talking to your accountant and getting your tax returns. We can pull those for you. We'll get them back electronically from the IRS in about 48 hours. So we've even filled that form in for you. You go ahead and sign that form, and you click Finish. And that's it. You're done. 20 seconds after you hit that button, you'll get an email from us saying the funds are in your account. In that 20 seconds, we've actually created the loan on the banking core at Eastern. We've notified anybody at the bank who was involved in the application. If you were sitting in front of a banker, for example, we've sent you an email, and you have your signed loan documents in the next email that comes into your email box. Our record, we talk about it being a 5-minute process. Our record is 2 minutes and 58 seconds from somebody hitting that first page to having money in their account. That's as simple as our process gets. So Bob mentioned that we have put a significant amount of investment within the bank into the SBA program. We leverage the SBA Express program. SBA's done a lot of work to make it easy for us as a bank to integrate with them technically. So we try to take that same streamlined approach and say, could we solve the SBA process? I think one of the biggest feedbacks that we get from customers about the SBA program is, boy, there is a lot of paperwork to fill out, and I think it's pretty intimidating. The form I have up on the screen here, and anyone who's kind of grimacing right now has seen this before. This is the 1919 form. It's actually not that bad a form. It's probably 20 to 25 questions. Most of them are relatively straightforward to answer, but it's very, very intimidating for small business owners, particularly if English isn't their first language. And so what we've tried to do is take the labs-esque approach to this form and really just make it much, much simpler user experience. I'm going to try and show you what that looks like and kind of do the sort of the cooking show here and jump into. So I did an application to save us some time. I got a decision back from our engine that says, yes, we're willing to offer you a loan, but in this case, it's an SBA loan. And this is how our version of the 1919 looks. Again, designed to be filled out on your mobile phone. So anybody who's familiar with the form, you'll know these questions on here. Asks you a bunch of questions about yourself and where you were born. I'm just going to say I was born in Boston. In this case, I'm going to say I'm a US citizen, but if I'm not. So one of the things you can do electronically is you can remove all of those secondary questions that come up if you answer a question a certain way. We don't have to show you the alien registration box if you're a US citizen. And so that's one of the ways that we can really simplify what's on the page here. I'm just going to fill in some of these numbers here and see if we can't get through this form. There's some voluntary disclosures down the bottom here. And then what we've done with the rest of those questions on the 1919 is actually pre-filled in, organized them so that they're logically together, because the form's a little bit out of order in terms of how people think about answering the questions. We've pre-filled them for you with the answers that the vast majority of our customers give us. And we've also kind of made it obvious what happens when you give a different answer. So for example, there's a question about exporting. Most of our clients check no, they don't export. If they do, there's a follow-up question where you provide the amount that you're exporting. And so we can do all that kind of work. We can do it for you, and we're going to pre-fill the answer just to make the experience easier. This is much, much easier to read through if you're on the phone with our call center or if you're in person with a banker. It fits great on an iPad that we have when we bring it out to the field. We hear it's just a much easier way to fill out the form. So if I go ahead and fill that form out, I don't think I checked any boxes that would actually make us not be able to close this loan in real time. So what will happen, if that worked, is that we will then actually, let me just show you. So now we're going to go into the e-signing experience. I've filled out those 2 pages of questions. We're going to go back into this document. I'm just going to remind myself what the last 4 of my social is here. And I'll save some time. I won't actually go through and signing this, but I just want to show you what we've done with the 1919. So if I scroll down here, you should be able to see it. So what we've done is to the same documents you saw for the non-SBA loan, what we've done is we've actually dropped in that 1919 form filled out. So we've taken all of the data from those previous questions that were simpler to do, much quicker to do, less intimidating. We've actually filled out the form for you. You get to make sure all your answers are right. And it's exactly the same process. You click next, you sign it, and then we would fund that loan in exactly the same way that we would fund a non-SBA loan. A couple more pages, couple more minutes maybe the potential for a few more questions, but again, really streamlined, paperless. You can do it whenever you choose to do it, across whichever channels you choose to do it. That's it.
So I'll just make a couple quick comments, and then I'm happy to take whatever time we have remaining and do questions. So this is the fastest way for a business to borrow capital in the United States. We also think the world, but frankly, we haven't done the diligence to go and prove that. I think this is what banking is going to look like across every product in the bank within 10 years. And that's what we're working on at Labs. We're working on a home equity product that later on this year will let people be able to apply for a home equity loan in 5 minutes. Think about how great that would be personally to have that happen. If anybody's taken a home equity loan, you know how long of a process that can be. Personal loans, 5 minutes. Deposit accounts, 5 minutes. We need to make buying a product from Eastern Bank for most of the products in the retail bank take 5 minutes, because that's what the market demands. That's what small business owners demand. That's what we as consumers demand. And I think we're quite proud to be building this at Eastern, given Eastern's history and heritage, and quite proud to be building it in New England, because we think this is going to be an industry, an idea that changes financial services. So with that, I'll stop talking and take any questions that anybody has. That's right. Lawrence mentioned later on this month, we'll be rolling out the ability for a business to walk into any Eastern branch and apply for a loan with this same process. And so, yeah, I do think this is a way for us to attract new customers, particularly as we do it for more and more products within the bank. We think it should be huge. To do this, it's about a month right now. And when, if you walked in, let's say a month from now, and you went through the process for new customers, you probably can't do it in 3 minutes as fast as this is, but it's not substantially longer. We'll make it quick for new customers too. There's not today. We've looked at it extensively, though. As you probably know, at Eastern, we bank and lend to a number of nonprofit institutions. It's probably something we can do in the future. It requires a different set of data science models and logic to build, and we didn't have the capacity to do that day one. Yeah, it uses a number of data sources. We use more data sources now to make this decision than we did before we built this product. What you've said is definitely correct. Everybody knows D&B is pretty spotty and occasionally shoddy. We've tried to overcome that in some ways. As an example, what industry you're in, as reported by D&B, is both spotty and shoddy. And so what we did is build a series of data science models that sit on top of D&B data, but also our own transaction data, and also public internet data about a company. And we can now predict with high accuracy what industry you're in without having to ask you on the form and requiring you to prove it to us. So we've tried to overcome that where we see problems.
Dan, one question. On the risk rating side, does it factor in not just credit score, but if you're an existing customer, your DDA balances? And, you know, in other words, I'm an existing commercial borrower, and I'm going to borrow $100,000. So the rate up there isn't made up. I mean, the rate is based on the cumulative factors, i.e., my personal or the business credit score, but also, you know, what the company may have on deposit with the bank. Mm-hmm. Does it capture that?
So, you know, I won't walk through all the individual pieces of the credit policy.
And how do you differentiate between going straight to the credits, to the application, differentiate, I think it would be helpful between going to the SBA and a standalone Eastern.
Mm-hmm. So it's probably worth noting that what we did in building this experience was to take the existing credit policy of Eastern Bank for sub-$100,000 loans to small businesses and automate it. We didn't change the credit policy. We weren't looking to invent a new way to, you know, to lend. We were looking to take what was a very good business and make it much easier for our customers. And so it's a highly sophisticated credit policy. It takes into a number of factors, count a number of factors, personal, business, you know, health of the business. And again, I won't speak to the specifics of the credit policy except to say it is engineered to say yes to as many customers as we can and have it make sense for the bank. You know, at the low rates that we want to charge and at the risk levels that we feel comfortable with. So it's, you know, it's engineered to say yes as often as we can. I mean, there are plenty of times in the past at Eastern where we've made a loan and realized after the fact that, you know, something got misrepresented, usually unintentionally, sometimes intentionally. And usually it ends up working out fine. It's just it's a simple unintended error, and you talk with the business about it and everything is okay. You know, in cases of fraud, intentional fraud with the bank, we have a series of checks and monitoring behind the scenes to make sure that that doesn't happen. And we'll continue to build out that tool set over time. That's right. Yeah, this looks like just a couple-page website, and it's a lot more code written than that. As I mentioned kind of in my intro, what we've done is take all of the work that we've always done to make a loan, and we've just done it largely in advance. The eligibility of a business is known when they walk in the door. So we don't want you to have to wait for our work. We do check some things in real time. As Lawrence mentioned, it takes about 15 seconds, and it's really confirmation of what we already believe to be true about a business. And so there is a very large system that sits behind the scenes of these web pages that does all of that due diligence. It's effectively a due diligence system. You're saying specifically like a technology company, do we differentiate? We're not going to differentiate based on getting into their tech and comparing it to, you know, in the same way we wouldn't, you know, if we're making a loan to a business services company, necessarily sit down and interview their clients versus another company. You know, it's based on the overall high-level health of the business. What industry you're in, you know, we might have opinions about and have always had opinions about, as do most banks. I don't think we have all the answers on that yet, candidly. I think we only started rolling this out to existing customers, you know, 2 months ago. But I can tell you what we think to be true. You know, I think for us, going to market really starts with our people. And you know, I'm a tech and, you know, internet guy. And we send a lot of emails that help customers apply for these loans. We've been blown away by the percentage of them that are booked by our bankers. The bankers love this as much as the customers do. You know, our existing process made the customer answer 55 questions on a piece of paper before we gave them the loan. The bankers had to then turn around and enter those 55 questions into a system, plus a couple more. So empowering our bankers to feel excited about what they're selling and know how great of a product it is, that's, I think, transformative. And I think they're going to do the heavy lifting of talking to the market, telling them about this product. We'll certainly do marketing on top. I don't think we have any specific plans at this point in time about, where we're going to be buying ads yet. It is licensable, and we have 3 banks who are waiting to roll this out in their footprint outside of New England because of how differentiated this is.